It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Yo, man. Boom, Miss Rusty. I hope I got that boom in there. Got that all right. Thank you guys, everyone, for joining the podcast, episode 401. We're past the 400. I don't know if we'll get to 500 by the 10-year mark, but we may. I think that's kind of the goal-ish. But thank you, everyone, for listening and tuning in here on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, QGBN, with other great shows that I co-host, such as When the Gloves Come Off, the Thinking Man's Pro Wrestling Podcast, This Is It with Lizzie, and Saved by the Ben, brought to you by Stoner Eats Productions, Fred Ben Savage as Fuck, Hypnosis is Great, Hardcore Comedy, and Sock'emUp.org. And again, yeah, thank you everyone for being here. I really appreciate it. Like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. And let's get right into it. Let's get into our conversation. I have a special guest here, right now. And I'm going to bring on that special guest. And we have Nicki Van Ingen Schenau.
Thank
How
you.
You doing? Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you for being here and showing up here. It's a lot easier to book not having to be anywhere near anyone anymore. It's weird. I don't know how this would have worked 4 years ago, but today, here we are. And so first off, so I wanted to ask about your cat, if that's something. So you have the bubble backpack.
Yes, I do.
And so how does the bubble backpack work? Where are you taking your cat? Where's your cat getting to explore that other cats don't get to see?
Well, I live in Amsterdam, and not too far from where I live is called Amsterdam Forest. And it is kind of a deceptive name because it is spread out not only over Amsterdam, but also Bovenkerk and Amstelveen, which are two different municipalities. So yeah, that area, there's a huge lake, and I really enjoy walking around the lake. I can send you some videos of Miko and myself walking around the lake. And then when he gets tired, I just put the backpack down and I unzip it, and he goes in by himself. And if he wants out, he'll start moving around or starts meowing, and I'll put down the backpack and he goes out again. Or when we're walking and he gets tired, there's benches around the area, and he'll jump on one of the benches and lies down. So that's his sign, like, okay, I've had enough. You can put me up there now.
I'm putting back in the backpack. And
yeah, I just want to watch. Too many dogs.
Yeah, and so Miko's on a leash then. And
yes,
you have,
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I tried. It's amazing that you got it to work. I've seen a few people be able to do it, and it's few and far between. I tried doing that. I lived in a place that had there was like an indoor apartment complex, and so I could take the cat through the hallways, but put that leash on him. He didn't want to move, and then so almost have to drag him for a second. Then I was just like, okay, you know what, this might not be the way to do it. And just like, yeah,
like when I put the harness on in the beginning, he was walking like this, like what's going on? And so I would put it on for 5 minutes, go outside with the leash. There's a little playground behind my house, so we would just sit there for 5 minutes, and then I would go back in, take everything off, and the next day again and again and again until he was more comfortable, and then started walking like 5-10 minutes, and then go back and slowly start to extend that. And yeah, at first I was like, okay, so I'm just going to allow you to explore. You can go wherever you want. I'm not going to tug on the leash or anything like that. And now he's at a point where if I don't like where he's going, I can just tug on it a little and he'll come and join me. And he understands basic commands like come here, we're going home, those kind of things. So yeah.
And so are you seeing other people that are walking around their cats or carrying the cats in the backpack?
Oh no, not at all. I'm the only one. I'm the crazy cat lady. So I don't know if you know this, but the Netherlands has a royal family, and every year we celebrate the birthday of our king. And my friend asked me, why don't you bring the cat in the backpack? So we went out to celebrate the king's birthday. Everyone is dressed in orange because it's our national color. And the cat was just walking around on the leash and just checking everything out and saying hi to everyone. And a friend of mine was doing face paint. So he jumped on the people and was like, yeah, come on, pet me. I need to be center of attention here.
And so, yeah, cat loves it. Cat's got the good life and everyone loves seeing the cat. And
yeah,
I became the crazy cat guy and it's all right. It's all right. People one of the times ago when I moved, nobody said, "Oh, I'll see you later." It's like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss your cat." And I go, "Okay, well,
I mean, he has his own Instagram account. A friend of mine started his Miko-chan from Amsterdam Instagram account. And most people assume he's a dog because they see me with the leash and they see something shaped like a dog. So then they come closer and like, oh my God, it's a cat. So that's so amazing.
And so what's on this channel for the Miko-chan from Amsterdam Instagram? It's a mouthful.
Yeah, so my friend uploads some content sometimes. So when he does something funny, like he has a very strong personality, and he's quite smart and he's very picky. So I have like 8 different kinds of treats, and we just line them up, or I just hold a few of them. And then he sniffs them all, and then he head bumps the one that he likes. So we did a challenge because another friend of mine has a dog. So we went and see if the dog could do the same thing. And she only had 2 different ones. And then the dog got really anxious, like, I have no idea what you're trying to make me do here. Please don't ask me to make this difficult decision. And Miko can choose between 5 different snacks, and he will let you know which one he likes by sitting next to it or start head bumping it or whatever.
So Miko's got someone following him around with the camera then. So while you're out and about, you have someone with a camera filming your cat. So how are people reacting to that when they're seeing this?
Oh, well, they're amazed. They want to take pictures. They're really crazy about him because he's quite unusual. He's like a Scottish fold, so his ears are flapped over like this.
Oh, okay.
And, in the Netherlands, everyone rides a bicycle, so my friend often takes him out on the bike, and she has him in a bubble backpack, and then she's riding her bike. And then people are like, is that a cat in there? Is that a stuffed animal or is that real? And they'll even stop and start taking pictures or wave or whatever. So yeah, he's starting to show things.
Do you have like a thing on there, like like a QR code or a thing that says like at Miko?
Oh yeah. I should totally do that. I haven't thought about it yet, but yeah, we should totally do that.
Oh, why not? Yeah. It's a good time in here. And so does Miko, you said you were traveling, so does he go with you at all anywhere? Does he go on car rides or I guess bike rides?
Yeah, bike rides, and depending on how far it is, I sometimes take him in the car as well. Like the other side of the forest is in Bovenkerk, which is like 15 minutes by car. So sometimes I just take him by car and just walk around the area and then go back by car. And then I'll take the backpack too. But in the car, he can just be, he doesn't have to sit inside the backpack. He can just walk around. He likes to sit on the back of the, what is it? The hat thingy.
Yeah.
And outside and look at the other people driving by. And people are like, what's that? Why does she have a cat in there? So yeah, it's fun.
The question is, why don't they have a cat in there?
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, and his name also has a significance. So it's comprised of two parts. The meek part is for his personality, because he's quite meek and he doesn't, he's very easygoing, and he doesn't, he never scratches or bites. And then the ko is a suffix because I've lived in Japan for 10 years, and ko means child. So if there is a name, a first name, generally it's for girls, but doesn't matter. And it's ko at the end, then it means child. Like Momoko means peach child. So he is my meek child. So.
And so you got him in Amsterdam though, right? Not in Japan?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story, because I had another cat which was a cross between Maine Coons and Ragdoll, and it had some kind of genetic abnormality. So when it was like 8 months old, it started to get some kind of neural disorder, and had to down. So I was quite distraught about that. And then at the same time, a good friend of mine, she moved to Spain. So Miko, his original name is actually Olive, but I thought it was more of a girl's name. So she said, oh, Olive can't go with us. And since your cat just passed away, would you mind taking him from us? So I was like, yeah, that would be great. I would love that. So that's how Miko came into my life.
Good timing. Good timing. And that seems to have worked out pretty well. Has a pretty good life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's very picky and very talkative, and he'll always let you know what's going on. If someone comes to the door, he needs to say hi. He might come over and say hi to you as well, because he always needs to be the center of attention. But right now it's quite hot for Dutch standards, so maybe he's off exploring in the garden or trying to cool down, because he has a very thick fur, so he gets hot quite easily.
Oh yeah, that'll happen pretty quickly with that big thick fur. I have a cat, like one of my cats is like that. And I buzz them, which is a weird thing too. Like when you like trim it down so the hair is like about this long.
Oh yeah. He's Siberian, so his undercoat is quite thick. Even in winter, he enjoys sitting out in the rain, and then he comes back inside and he's completely drenched and wants to be petted or jumps onto the bed and like, get off.
Hold on, go dry off first.
Yes. He's like, what?
And so then, okay, you said then at that point, then you go to Japan. So you lived in Japan for 10 years. So
yes,
what was it that was your appeal to go to Japan? And I guess, that's my first question of that.
Yeah, well, to be honest, there wasn't any. The reason I went to Japan is back in 2004, I was kind of bored and my job wasn't very challenging. So my manager was like, oh, well, as long as you finish your work within the amount of time set for it, if you finish early, you still need to be there so you can pick up the phone or answer questions or whatever. But in the meantime, you can do whatever you want. So I was doing a lot of online dating at the time. There were no apps.
In
So
'04?
yeah, in '04 there were no apps,
Wow.
so there wasn't
Yeah.
even Tinder didn't exist yet. So basically, it was kind of a way to distract myself, and I wasn't really thinking that I would meet the man of my dreams. So my only criteria for meeting guys was, does this person have an interesting backstory and can they tell an engaging story for an hour? So I saw this guy who is Japanese and his whole profile was in Dutch. So I thought, that's interesting. How can he speak Dutch so well? There must be some interesting story how he came to the Netherlands because it's quite unusual. So I was like, yeah, let's meet for lunch sometime. And he told me that his father was sent to Amsterdam in the 70s because then you still had the Iron Curtain with the USSR and everything. So
okay.
Tourism to Japan from Europe wasn't really a thing back then. So his father was tasked to start the Japan Tourist Bureau in Amsterdam and to start promoting tourism from Amsterdam or Netherlands to Japan, because back then you had to fly through Anchorage because you couldn't fly over Russia, obviously.
Whoa.
And then later, after a few years, he let his family come over and live with him in Amsterdam. So the guy that I met for the date basically grew up in the Netherlands, always went to Dutch school, although he had Japanese parents and spoke Japanese at home. All his friends were Dutch, and yeah, he was really suffused or infused with the Dutch culture and atmosphere.
So did he come to, that first time you met him, was he in the Netherlands or were you in Japan?
Yeah, we were in the Netherlands, so we went
Okay.
out for a date. I lived in Rotterdam at the time, and he lived in Amsterdam. And I didn't have any notions of what would happen besides having lunch and listen to his backstory. And then after the date, he was like, "Oh, can I kiss you?" And we met on the beach, and the sun was setting, and we had this romantic walk along the shore. And then later we had the sushi dinner. And yeah, so the things progressed, and he asked me to move in with him in Amsterdam. And then when we lived together for 5 years, he asked me, how would you feel about maybe living in Tokyo for like 2-3 years? And I said, yeah, sure, see if you can find a job. I'm okay with that. And really, I thought, well, either it's going to be fine and I'll get a job. And I mean, my English is not too bad. I'm assuming that the large corporations will have English as the main language. And if worse comes to worse, it's only 2-3 years. I can put my career on hold for a bit. And then when I come back, I'll just pick up where I left off. Or maybe I can get a job at the embassy, something that doesn't require Japanese. So I went there, and then yeah, things were just totally different. And it was really hard for me to find a job because everywhere I went, they were like, okay, so you're fluent in Japanese. I'm like, not really. Yeah, well, tell you. And yeah, so I was like, oh, okay, I'll just study Japanese full time for a year. And then after a year, I'll be fluent and then I'll get a job. So I was studying, and still, even my husband, we married before going to Japan because I needed the marriage license for a visa. Even though he is Japanese, still the first 2 years of him coming to Japan, he was always apologizing and saying, if I say something stupid, it's because I grew up in the Netherlands. So my Japanese might not be perfect. And people were checking his emails before he was even allowed to send them out because of the Japanese. So even he took 2 years to perfect his Japanese. So how could I expect to become fluent in 1 year? But at the time, I had these grandiose thoughts like, oh, I'll just manage. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. I will be the exception. So no.
Not
Yeah,
yet.
and, yeah, 2 years in, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I'm never going to get fluent. I'm never going to get the hang of this language. And a friend came over and I was complaining like, oh, I hate it here. And she was like, why don't you start your own company? And I thought, my own company, I can barely speak the language. How am I gonna even start a company? I haven't even had a company in my own country where I do speak the language. How am I gonna do that here? And she said, oh, you should do guided tours because you know so much about Japan and you know so much about the background and the culture and everything. And just set up a website and create an email account and I will take care of the rest. So I thought, oh, this is going to be one of those cases where someone is like, yeah, for sure, I'm going to help you. And then you never hear from them again.
Right.
So, but just in case, I thought, oh, let's just create a website and see how it goes. So I did that. I didn't prepare anything else because I was like 90% sure nothing would come of it. And then after 1 week, I received my first email like, hey, I read somewhere that you do guided tours and I would like to book with you. And I'm coming next week. And can you take care of me? And I literally fell off my chair from shock. Like, oh my God, I was so not expecting that. I didn't prepare anything. I don't have an itinerary or anything. So I was just scrambling to get it done. And yeah, so right away, it was kind of like a flying start, as they say in Dutch. So yeah, that's how I got into Japan and started my company. And yeah, it's been an amazing roller coaster ride, except for the whole COVID situation.
I mean, it was pretty wild in Japan, Tokyo, over there. How much everything was. I mean, compared to where I was, from what I saw, I mean, I wasn't in Japan, but I mean, from what I saw, it was pretty locked down everywhere. And
well, yeah, the thing was they were going to host the Olympics in 2020.
Oh yeah.
So going into 2020, it was supposed to be the best year ever. We just had the rugby thing going on, the World Championships or whatever, at the end of 2019. So we're like, yeah, let's get ready for the Olympics, and so many bookings. And then January, February, the country was locked down for Korea and China. So we were like, okay, opportunities, no more Chinese buses. There's more room for our European and American tourists who want to take pictures and do not like 40 Chinese people standing in front of them. So we were very hopeful and optimistic. And then suddenly it was like, oh yeah, change of plans. No one's going in or out. So yeah, that was pretty devastating because our season basically starts in March and the end of February is when they close down the country. So just when we got ready to get going, then it was like, this is not going to happen. And the schools closed and it was learned from home. And also, people always think, oh, Japan is such a sophisticated country. Technology is through the roof. So if I go to Japan, everything will be automated and it's going to be an amazing experience. But actually, that is very far from the truth because you need to imagine that the average age, especially in corporate Japan, is 50 plus. And they're not the most technologically advanced people out there. So they work with desktop computers. Laptops is not really a thing. Some computers even have the floppy disk still. So they're working with these ancient programs. Like last year, they decided to phase out the floppy disk finally because I thought, oh yeah, maybe we should do something about that. So the work from home thing was a total disaster because a lot of people couldn't physically work from home. They didn't have the tools to do that. So they
Wow.
needed to go into the office. So yeah, it was terrible. And so many people got sick. And then the whole xenophobia started. Like a lot of shops would have signs, foreigners not welcome, or in public buildings, there would be signs on the elevator saying, this elevator is only for Japanese people. If you are non-Japanese, please use the other elevator.
So were you saying like, I'm married to a Japanese guy, or were they just like, hey, woman from the Netherlands, get out of
no
here?
exceptions, like if I were going to the subway, then I would get dirty looks from people, or they would be really surprised because there was this whole exodus of people leaving Japan during COVID and going back home, or were unable to come back in. Like a friend of mine, she needed to go to a funeral, and she has kids and the family and everything. And then Japan said, okay, well, F you. We don't care.
Whoa.
You're not coming back in. So she couldn't see her kids for months. No exceptions. And yeah, so yeah, for me too. Like I would get on the subway and people would either react like, oh, you escaped from a zoo. What happened? What are you doing here? Or they would just be like a look of total disgust, and they would get up and sit somewhere else, or standing in line and get out of the line and go to the other side. And even with the travel restrictions, of course, Japanese people were able to travel in and out, and the rules were just not as stringent. And Western people or non-Japanese people, they have to jump through so many hoops, and the Japanese government were like, oh, Japanese people cannot, obviously they cannot be the bearer of the bringer of COVID, so we're not going to check them so well. Whereas foreign non-Japanese people were unable to even come into the country. And then later you had to quarantine in a hotel for weeks. And every time there was a new outbreak, it was because of a Japanese person getting infected first. So, they really stoked all the fear and the xenophobia and the let's kill all foreigners because they are horrible. So I'm
bring
glad
their disease.
that we are finally getting past that, and the Japanese people are more open to foreigners again. But yeah, during COVID, it was really tough and really uncomfortable how people reacted. And, even now, of course, you don't necessarily need to wear a mask anymore. The restriction has been lifted. But still, everywhere you go, people wear the mask because they're like, yeah, you never know. And so if you don't wear it, you start to feel uncomfortable and like, oh, everyone is looking at me and everyone is wearing it. Maybe I should put it on too. Like,
yeah, it's kind of odd, yeah, when with that, how there's a lot of people like, what, wait, why are you wearing it? It's like if you see someone, like 3-4 people running down the street away from, like, what are you running away from? Should I start running too?
exactly.
Like, this is trouble here. And so are you, when you moved there, were you in Tokyo, like in the city prop? So they were, it wasn't like a big shock to see someone in Tokyo that's blonde hair and white skin and stuff like that. Or did you go to, was it, did you feel like you stuck out at places, or did you go into smaller towns or anything? And
well, the thing is, when I first came to Japan, it was also a strange year because it was 2011, which was the year of the tsunami. So in March, the tsunami came, and the earthquakes, of course, and also in Tokyo as well. So a lot of foreigners had left the country. So there were very few foreigners left and very few coming in because everyone was afraid of Fukushima with the nuclear power plant. What's going to happen? Is it going to explode? How about the water? We heard that there's radioactive material in the sea, and the land has gotten contaminated, and how about the soil and the vegetables? So all of the foreigners, anyone who was able to leave, just left Japan. So it was actually quite extraordinary to walk around as a foreigner back then. But the plus side was it was really easy to get an apartment, especially around the city center, which is really hard to find, generally speaking. You have to move really fast. And also, that's another thing we had to get used to. So faxes, fax machines, that's still a thing in Japan. So even now, yeah. So oftentimes, if you want to apply for an apartment, you have to fill everything out and send it by fax. And of course, we didn't know where to find a fax machine because we didn't have one of our own. So one of the apartments we couldn't get because we were too late faxing in the details. But yeah, so again, Japan is not as advanced as most people think. Yeah. But yeah, so it was quite challenging at first, and total culture shock. And I came to Japan, and even Google Maps didn't exist at the time. So I had this booklet with the fold out map. I'm like, okay, where do I need to go? No one spoke English. And I was like, oh, as long as I can get into the subway, then I know what subway station to get out of, and I know which exit to take so I can go back home. So fortunately, that was good. And the subway system is quite extensive. The trains go every 2 minutes, so and very safe and clean. But yeah, I mean, my husband would be like, oh, okay, you pick up some rice, and then I would be in this aisle and both sides would be rice, like 85 different kinds of rice, and I would be like, seems like it's both rice, right? What's even the difference? Like, okay, this one's cheaper, let me get this one. So I would come home and my husband was like, oh my God, I cannot let you do one single thing. Even buying something simple as rice, you can mess up. And like, there's like 85 different kinds. How am I supposed to know? I cannot read what's on it. It seems all the same to me. And he was like, this is totally wrong. This is for use for this and this. This is not everyday normal rice. I'm like, well, next time you go get it.
Yeah, so, or have some good picture of it to be able to match up.
Yeah, so you can show it. Like,
I want one of these.
Yeah, and like different vegetables that you've never seen before in your life. You're like, what am I supposed to do with this? Is this edible even? Do you cook it or stir fry it or whatever? So that, and the fish, that they had like whole fishes, so not filleted, everything, the head, the intestines, everything was there. I was like, okay, let's put up a YouTube video, how to clean a fish. Oh, okay, this looks challenging. So, and then the skin of the fish, the scales, the whole kitchen was covered in scales because I didn't know you had to do something about it to prevent it from going everywhere. So like 3 months after, there were still scales everywhere.
So how'd that go when you found out? So you have a fish that's still very fish looking, and you take it home and you find out you have to cook it and fillet it. So take it apart. So, I mean, what was that? You have to, I mean, have you ever done anything like that before that point?
Never. So the first time I didn't know that a fish needed to be descaled. So we tried to eat it and it was horrible because there were scales everywhere. Wow. And then the second time I was like, okay, so I need to take care of the scales, but then they flew everywhere, and also to fillet it properly and to take out all the intestines. I was like, oh my God, this is so horrible. I mean, I'm like, maybe in the United States it's more common to go fishing and to cook your own fish, but the Netherlands, it's not really a thing. So not many people do that. If they go camping, they go to a campsite with electricity and running water and hot and cold showers, that kind of thing. So the whole going to the woods and camping and catch your own meal or kill an animal or something like that, that's not really a thing in the Netherlands. So that was the first time I ever bought protein that wasn't pre-packaged, that I just needed to heat up, so to speak.
So are you cooking that now, or are you enjoying cooking fish now, different kinds of fish? Or
Oh yeah. I mean, it was challenging to get used to cooking this way, but and of course the Japanese houses, because we were staying not in not in an expat place, as those are typically made for expats, but
yeah.
at a proper Japanese place. So everything is super low. I'm not really tall. I'm like 5'5", so that's not crazy tall. But for Japanese standards, it is. So if you want to cook, you're hunched over like that.
Ooh.
When you want to brush your teeth, you have to go like this to even look in the mirror, and to wash your hands, go like that. So yeah, it's definitely, if you take a bath, you need to curl up your knees, because otherwise you cannot stretch out your legs because it doesn't fit.
So how's that been? I mean, yeah, I've had one of my places I was at a few years ago, that I would look in the mirror and the mirror would come up to here.
yeah,
And so like,
and the
all
shower
right.
go like this.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Or it just, hits you like right about here. And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to
Like
go and
worse
get
than
down
that.
here. And then, all of a sudden, your back doesn't feel too great. And like, okay, well, because even today I was at like a cash machine to go, get like ATM or whatever, and it was down super low. I had to, duck down to do it, and
Yeah.
it's tough. And so, and then, so yeah, you got small baths.
Yeah, everything is
Yes.
so tiny, and the chairs are small. It's like you're going into kindergarten when you go into some of the restaurants. Like, is this meant for adults? Come on, are you kidding me?
Is there a way for people to have? Is that only in the expat houses? Will they do bigger stuff for them and
Yeah,
more?
like dishwashers aren't a thing in Japan. So unless you
Oh,
live in an expat apartment, your apartment is most likely not going to have a dishwasher, because Japanese
wow.
people don't believe in that. They feel it's nonsense. It's better to wash your cutlery and everything by hand. So
Oh,
yeah.
so that's something that's, did
Yeah,
you,
I was
miss
so
that?
amazed. Like, oh my God, how can I not have a dishwasher? That's like basic appliance. And a lot of the washing machines, I think it's the same in the United States. They're like top loaders where you have to put everything from the top. And
Yeah.
I'm used to front loaders where you can just stuff it in, and they don't have hot water. So you have this tube that you need to fill up the bathtub first with hot water, and then there's this tube that you have to put from the washing machine into the tub, so it can draw the hot water from the tub. But
Whoa.
it's so annoying and so cumbersome, and the first time I had to do this, like, what? And then if it's not incorrectly, then it starts to actually take the water from the washing machine to the bath, and it's a whole thing. So in the end, I was just washing without hot water, just with cold water only. Like, oh my God,
Yeah,
this is so ancient.
probably a good idea. And so, I mean, what else have you found that you would have never thought you would really be into there, that you just really enjoyed doing? Or like, are you taking those people on your tours? Are you taking them? Are you, are you still saving some places that you're really hold near and dear to your heart? Like those are my places. I'm not going to take you there, but I'm going to take you to the next best place. But like, I always felt if I had a tour, there'd be a few places I'd kind of keep quiet. But or are you going to more places where there's a lot of other tourists, people with flags and stuff to know where you are, or what's your?
Well, I mean, it depends. Depends on what the client wants. Some people want to focus mostly on the highlights because they're only in Tokyo for like 1 or 2 days, and other people have been to Japan before, or they just don't like the really touristy places. So there's lots of weird temples around Japan as well. So for instance, in Tokyo, there's one temple where they can bless your handbag. So there's a special ceremony, and they do this whole thing with smoke, and then all the evil is washed away from your handbag, and prosperity will come in, and that kind of thing. And there's another one outside of Tokyo that's like a money laundering temple. So they have these special baskets, and you need to put your money in the basket, and there's special water, and you have to do this whole ritual with washing your money. And then the money you put in the basket will come back to you. So after you spend it, then in some way, good fortune will chase you, and you will, I don't know, get a bonus or win some money in the lottery or whatever. So those are a couple of places that are quite unusual. And, there's also lots of restaurants where they only have a menu in Japanese, no English menu, or it's a handwritten menu. So even if you try to use the Google Translate, it still won't give you any notion of what it says, because Google Translate cannot recognize the handwritten kanji. So yeah, we like to take most of the time at least include 1 or 2 sites that the client would most likely not have found on their own, or would not have been able to go on their own, to give them a more authentic experience, unless they insist to go to Denny's or to only see the major sites. I mean, we have people like that as well, or to eat pizza or something. So yeah, whatever you want, if that's what makes you happy, we'll do that.
I have a buddy who just made a video. He lives in California, and he made a video of all the American stuff in Tokyo. And one of the things is Denny's. Like, I'm gonna go to Tokyo, and then about eating at Denny's. He didn't actually eat at Denny's, but it was like making fun of people who are going there and eating at all the American places. But
yeah, like Wendy's and Denny's.
Yeah.
McDonald's, whatever floats your boat. It's you're paying, so it's fine if that's what you want. I'm not going to insist that you have to go to this hole in the wall. If you prefer McDonald's, then fine, have your Big Mac.
Yeah, we'll go to McDonald's.
Yeah.
And so if you go to somewhere, I guess, I mean, let's say the first few days you were there, you found out you're going to Tokyo, and you have like, I guess a full day. It's kind of so like, where would you want to go as far as like what kinds of places, and what mode of transportation would you want to have?
Well, the public transport is amazing in Japan. So you can just take the subway. You can buy a day card for like 700 yen. And that doesn't cover all the subway lines, but the major ones are covered by it. So I feel it's a much better deal than getting the Pasmo or Suka. So basically, Pasmo and Suka are like cards you can top off. So you can also use it as a payment card, like a kind of like a debit card in shops, and you can also use it in public transportation, and it just deducts every individual ride. But if you travel a bit to different destinations in Tokyo, so at least 2 or 3 rides, then it makes more sense to just get the day pass, because it comes out way cheaper. And where to go? Yeah, there's so many places, and like Tokyo alone, just the city center, has 8 million people living there, 8 to 9 million. And if you take the greater Tokyo area, it's 38 million people. So, and then there's lots of local things going on, like spring, you have the cherry blossoms, and then you have the wisteria and hydrangea and firework festivals and music festivals and food festivals. So it's really difficult to narrow it down. And then all the temples, they also have their own little festivals. So yeah, and it really depends on what you're into. Like the museums are amazing and really cheap. So especially in summer when it's crazy hot, right now it's Tsuyu, so the rainy season. So that is going to end early July, and then July and August going to be crazy hot. I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, but in centigrade, it's like around 40 degrees with like 90% humidity.
So
yeah, you might wanna from 12 to 2 go to a museum and enjoy the air conditioning.
What about you? If you're going to, let's not even say Tokyo. If you're going to some other place, you're going to some town, what's the first thing you want to go see or experience?
Yeah, it really depends on where you are going and what time of year it is. Like Japan is a really long, stretched out country. So if you put it on its side, it goes from Iceland to Istanbul. So if you cover the Europe, it's that big. So also climate-wise, it has snowy mountains, it has mountain ranges, it has volcanoes, it has hot springs, it has farmlands, fields, it has tropical islands, the best snow in the world from what I'm told, because I absolutely despise anything to do with snow. So yeah, there's rock climbing, there's islands everywhere. There's so many things to do. So one of my favorite places is Okinawa because it's more relaxed, more laid back, like the island atmosphere. There's a huge American base, so it's, in my opinion, more internationally minded than, for instance, Tokyo. Tokyo is really kind of a lot of government workers. So everything is like in boxes and everything has to be by the rules and there's no exception and everyone is just following the person in front of them. Whereas Okinawa is slightly more laid back and people are a bit more friendly and like the mahalo kind of atmosphere. So yeah, I prefer to go there. The only downside is that the public transportation is not really great. So you need to rent a car and be able to drive on the left side of the road.
Oh yeah.
Right. So yeah, that takes a little getting used to. But yeah, there's so many nice beaches. It's not as crowded. There's more room and it's just easier to relax. Everything is just, when I get to Okinawa, I'm like, oh, okay, this is so relaxing. I really enjoy it. I mean, except for the food, because you Americans brought spam to Okinawa.
Can I tell you about spam real quick?
Oh, yeah, please.
Okay, so I used to live in Austin, Minnesota, which is, Minnesota's like middle of the country, sort of like up north.
Yeah.
And the place I lived was 5 minutes of a walk from the Spam Museum.
Interesting.
And I lived right, like, not, I don't know, like half a kilometer, not even that, probably a lot less than that, from the rendering plant where they go and the slaughterhouse. So I tried spam one time and once I smelled that smell and I was like, yeah, so spam, I didn't mean to interrupt you about spam, but spam,
and like smells like food to me.
Yep. I don't know how that got around or who thought that was a good idea, but um, yeah, yeah. No thanks to spam. And
Yeah. So yeah, but it's a delicacy in Okinawa, and they put it in freaking
oh
everything. So almost all dishes have spam somewhere. I'm like, no, thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. No thanks. No thanks at all. And
Yeah.
so I guess the last thing I want to ask you. So what's your favorite Japanese word or phrase
Ah,
that
well, I have a few. So when I first started learning Japanese, I really fell in love with the word murasaki, which means purple. And the only reason is because I feel it kind of rolls off the tongue and I like the sound of it. So when I first learned the word, I just kept saying murasaki the whole time, like, so good.
like
And
just purple?
yeah, yeah,
Same purple all the time. What's
yeah.
going on with her?
Yeah. Well, she's weird. Never mind her. She's a foreigner, so just yeah,
She likes purple.
yeah, the color purple. So that and I really like the word choto, which
What?
means a little, but
Okay.
basically, like literally, it means a little, but depending on the situation and the context and who's saying it and your facial expression and how you're saying it, it can mean so many different things.
Oh,
So Japanese is a high context language, which means that like English is a low context language. So you're very direct and you say what's on your mind and what you see is what you get kind of thing. Whereas in Japan, they feel that if you are very direct, it's actually insulting because then you assume that the person you're talking to is stupid and unable to understand what you're trying to convey
oh,
unless you're super direct. So only for children you are direct, and for adults you have to be very effusive and kind of go around. So if
wow.
someone asks you something, you can just go, oh, chotto. And it's usually not something good. So like, no, it's not possible, or get out of my way, or I don't want to be bothered with you, or forget about it, or like that kind of connotation. So, or yeah, just yeah, or it's going to take a while, or yeah, so it's usually not super positive in any case.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And so, Nicki, where can everyone find you on the internet or wherever they want to find you in the world?
Yeah, well, you can, if you want to contact me personally, you can go to my Instagram page. I'm Nicki underscore Amsterdam. So NICKI underscore Amsterdam. And you can find me on all social media platforms under my company name, which is Tokyo Tours. And Tokyo is spelled the Dutch way, so not the English way. So that's with an I instead of a Y. So TOKIO and then tours TOURS. And I have two websites, tokyotours.nl and tokyotours.com. Yeah, so that's basically how you can find me. I'm on all the platforms, so just drop me a DM or follow me on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or wherever.
Perfect. Okay. Well, yeah. Wait, hold on. One more question then. So, what do you do on TikTok?
Well, just
What's your thing you
videos.
like? Okay.
Yeah, so basically some short videos about Japan, like why you should get a tour guide, or like things you didn't know about Japan, or like those kind of explanatory videos.
Okay. All right. Okay. Hey, Nicki, thank you so much. Awesome talking to you, getting to meet you.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And don't
getting
forget
to,
to follow Miko-chan from Amsterdam.
there you go. That too.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, hey, have a great rest of your day. And yeah, we'll keep in touch. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. It's
All
been
right. Yeah. Maybe I can figure this out. There we go. All right. That was Nicki give her a follow and give her cat a follow too. I mean, you got to hear a lot about the cat. So thank you so much for showing up here and listening, making it to the end here on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, QGBN, with other great shows such as When the Gloves Come Off, the Thinking Man's Pro Wrestling Podcast, This Is It with Lizzie, and Saved by the Ben, sponsored by Fred Ben Savage's Buck, Stone Reese Productions, Hardcore and Comedy, Hypnosis is Great, and Sock'emUp.org. Thank you, everyone. Like, subscribe, share, do all that other stuff. You know how to do it. And that's the show, man. Boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Ernest! Ernest! Ernest!
Yes, Pee-wee.
You brought the snacks, right?